Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com. Today I'm taking your questions on water pump replacements, adaptive cruise issues, towing with your Passat, and more. This is episode 226 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. Remember, in order to get a question on a show like this, email me, charles@HumbleMechanic.com. Put question for Charles in the subject. Be sure to ask your question right at the top of the email. Give me some space, then give me the details. That helps out a ton. Also, if you don't see your question on a show like this, be sure to check out the Quick Videos playlist on YouTube, where I do one question per video. Also, remember, you can listen to most of these shows on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, or whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. All right, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, which is CRP Automotive. CRP deals in a ton of OE maintenance and repair parts, timing belt kits, suspension components, and even fluids. In fact, they make the factory DSG fluid for Volkswagen and Audi. So check them out at crpautomotive.com. And really quick, want to remind you guys, if you like the show, want to throw some support the show's way, as well as get discounts to places like Black Forest, Eastwood, MT Knives, Mycanic, Prime Shades, Adams Polishes, and more, check out the Crew Membership program. Great way to save a ton of money on cool stuff you buy anyway. Link down below in the description. All right. That's done. Let's hit the questions. First one up is from Nick. Hey, I just bought a 2018 Tiguan Highline in Canada. I put winter tires and wheels on it, one size smaller, so they're 17s instead of 18s, but the same measurements. After a week, the ACC and front lane assist stopped working after hitting a bump on the highway. The local dealership is telling us it doesn't work because the wheels have the wrong back spacing. I feel that it's a sensor problem. What are your thoughts? Their solution is to sell me winter wheels for $800, but they won't look at the sensors. It's very frustrating. Please advise me. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, Nick, I bet it is real frustrating. So this is such an easy solution that it hurts my head why a group of professionals at a dealership didn't ever think, hey, let's try this. Okay, I get it, it's still winter, but why don't you just put the other wheels and tires back on? Or what we did all the time at the dealership, and granted, it was a pain in the butt, but it proved or disproved whatever we were trying to prove or disprove, is we took a Tiguan or a Jetta or whatever, a Tiguan in this case, off the lot, new car, same car, and we took the wheels off and we put them on the customer's car. Then we went and happily drove the car and determined, yep, everything's working great. And we determined, yes, it is the customer's wheels that they have on their car. Then they have proof. Mr. Customer, Mr. Nick, hey, we did this, we swapped wheels and tires, drove it with different wheels and tires that are the correct back spacing, if you will, and the car behaved perfectly fine. We can know 100% for sure it's your wheels or your tires or some combination of both. Very simple solution. Or what is probably going to happen is they're going to put those wheels and tires on the car. They're going to happily drive the car around and find that it doesn't work because there's something else wrong with it. But Nick, and I'm getting like a little worked up about it, but it's not your fault. But guys, this is so simple. Just put another set of wheels and tires on it. The way that we always approach these things at the dealership. Now, for you technicians out there, it can be frustrating. And I've been frustrated having to do this. I totally get it. This is a case where management needs to be involved to make sure you're not running around the lot swapping wheels and tires off 5 different cars and not getting paid anything. But it's such a simple solution to swap these wheels and tires. And we handled it like this. The burden of proof was on us. If we were saying, Mr. Customer, because of something you did, your whatever system isn't working, your lane departure warning or your adaptive cruise isn't working, it was on us to prove that. And until we proved that, we had to treat it like the vehicle was under warranty. And we had to prove it without a doubt. There could be no question of, was this really what was going on or not? And swapping wheels and tires, 15 minutes worth of work, 25 if you include a nice long test drive, would prove that or wouldn't. And if they eliminate wheels and tires as a possibility, then now they have the next thing to check, the sensors, do an alignment and see, do a visual inspection, because maybe, Nick, all that happened was when you hit that pothole is the sensor got tweaked and now it's not aligned properly. This should be a pretty easy diagnosis. I hope that whoever's working on it is taking the problem seriously. And what I mean by that is not just, I don't know about ACC, this is a new system, I don't want to mess with it, the customer put different wheels on it, so it's not my problem. I hope they're taking it seriously and doing what they have to do to get it fixed. This could very easily be one of those kick it out the door and blame the wheels, but this could also be the thing that maybe creates a new technical service bulletin and maybe now is a widespread repair, or maybe leads to a software update, or whatever. Paint the picture. It could be something that goes nowhere. It could be a huge worldwide thing that this one technician discovers, which I gotta say would be pretty darn cool as a technician. So I would call them or take it back and say, hey, look, I know you're telling me it's my wheels. I don't feel like I want to spend $800 on new wheels. Either bring your wheels and tires back and have them put them on, or have them grab a Tiguan off the lot, put those wheels and tires in the car, and go drive it and see what happens. That may not get your car fixed, but that will at least either prove or disprove whether it was the wheels or whether it's something else. All right, next one up is from Scott, and Scott's got two awesome questions, so I'm gonna rock them both. Scott asks on his 2012 Tiguan, what else should he do while he's in there when doing a water pump? Okay, water pump leaking on a 2-liter TSI, one of the most common problems of the TSI, and boy, aren't there a bunch of problems with the TSI. So, honestly, Scott, there's not a whole lot that you really need to worry about when you're doing the water pump. If you do the water pump by the book, which means you're taking the throttle body off, you're taking the intake pipe off, and a couple of other little minor things, nothing crazy. You could clean the throttle body. Good time to do that. There's some folks that will replace the belt that drives the water pump. I don't think that's necessary, but it's something you can do. What I will say you want to look at, though, is the balance shaft is what actually drives the water pump. So there is a seal behind the gear on the balance shaft that drives the water pump. You want to take a look at that seal and make sure it's not leaking oil. The GTIs that had the recall for the water pump did come with a new seal that needed to be installed, and I assume that's because they had a handful of issues with those leaking, which is why it came with our kit. But other than that, if you do it straight up by the book, I mean, it's a great time to do a coolant flush since you're going to lose most of the coolant anyway. But other than that, not a ton that you really need to look at. Now, if you are not following the repair manual, but doing it what I think is in a little bit easier way, especially on a Tiguan because the engine sits lower in the engine compartment, and that's pulling the intake manifold off, well, now we're looking at decarb, now we're looking at injector cleaning, now we're looking at resealing injectors, and that kind of stuff. Thankfully, that's one of those jobs that you don't really have to do a ton while you're in there. I feel like the phrase, well, since I'm in there, or while I'm in there, has cost me so much money, especially doing, now, gosh, what am I thinking, 2 project cars. It's cost me a lot of money, but luckily these are pretty straightforward repairs that don't really require anything extra, and there's not a ton to super overlap in order to really maximize the time you're spending while replacing those parts. Oh, and as far as that little bit of oil, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. Next up, Scott wants to know, what are some of the possible causes of oil consumption on a 2-liter TSI, the same 2012 Tiguan that we were talking about, and it's got 130K on it. Engine oil consumption has gone up recently. I suspect the PCV found some vacuum in the crankcase at idle, so I replaced it. Oil consumption didn't improve after the PCV. I know the PCV is a source of consumption and that a bad turbo could cause oil consumption as well, but what am I missing? Thanks for building a great community, Scott in North Carolina. Scott, thank you so much for all the support of the show. I really appreciate that. I should have mentioned that in the first one. But so oil consumption isn't a huge issue just with the Tiguan. I'm trying to explain this in a way that doesn't make all of the 2-liters seem like they use oil, but I don't think there's a way to, because almost all the 2-liters do use a fair amount of oil. Now, some of that is because they're a turbocharged car, which tends to use a bit of oil anyway. I have 3 turbocharged cars now. 2 of them do use a bit of oil. This could be oil control rings, it could be blow-by, could be turbo, a little bit of oil seeping past the seal inside the turbocharger. All those are possible. The PCV could have been an issue, just not a big issue. Before you start chasing consumption, Scott, make sure that you have fixed any potential leaks. I mentioned the oil pipe not being that much oil. It didn't look that big of a deal to me. I believe that. I don't think it's that much, at least looks like from the picture. But you want to make sure you don't have a rear main seal leaking, or you don't have an oil cooler leaking, or you don't have a front timing cover leaking, or a cam girdle leaking, or all the other oil leaks that happen on the 2-liter turbo. That's what you want to do first, because if you have a leak, get that fixed before you start chasing consumption. Then what I would do really before I started doing any type of repairs, you already did the PCV, which is great, is I would run a product called EPR, Engine Performance Restore. It's by a company called BG. Actually, it's by a company called BG. Oddly enough, I had my BG cup sitting right here. Not planned at all, trust me, Scott. Check that out. It's like $10 on Amazon. You can get it at the dealership too. I've ran this on my Passat many times. I've never done it on the Tiguan, but I've ran it on the Passat many times. The first time I did it, I was really curious to see what this did. How did this impact the vehicle? I was seeing about 1.5 quart oil loss between oil changes, which on that car is every 5,000 miles. That's a lot of oil every 5,000 miles in my opinion. VW doesn't consider that to be abnormal because it's about 1,000 miles, you can lose roughly 1 quart of oil. That's their tolerance, I guess you would say. But to me, that seems like a lot, and I wanted to see what this EPR did. So I did a compression test before, and then I ran the product, did an oil change. It's super easy to use. Scott, all you have to do, dump it in, make sure your car's up to temp, let it idle, or it's off idle, I think. Follow the instructions on the can. I just did this like 3 days ago, or yesterday. I just did this yesterday. I don't know why I remember. You run it at about 1,200 RPM for about 10 minutes. Then you do your oil changes normal, and you add a product called MOA. And you use this product, and Scott, I saw almost a complete elimination of oil consumption. I saw a 6% increase across the board, so roughly 6% on each cylinder. So it does something. And I didn't film this. This may have even been before the video world of Humble Mechanic, but there was a noticeable decrease in consumption and a noticeable increase in compression. I didn't notice any difference in the way the car drives, but it was nice not to have that little bit of timing chain tension or tick when I would first start the car up, and it pretty much eliminated that. So good product, easy to use, do it with an oil change, and add the MOA along with it. It's cheap, and I really like it. It did a lot for me. You may just be seeing some buildup on the oil control rings where they're sticking around the piston and not expanding all the way. I think that's really what this stuff is meant to do, is to free up those oil control rings in your engine. Try that after you do the leaks, before you do anything else, because this can be a deep, deep hole that you get yourself into chasing oil consumption. All right, last one of the day comes from Penn. Hey, Charles, will towing a small motorcycle and trailer damage the engine or transmission on a B6 2-liter turbo? I drive an '08 BPY with 140K, APR Stage 1, and I'm thinking of installing a trailer hitch so I can tow my Suzuki DR650 on a small trailer. The combined weight of the bike and trailer is under 900 pounds. Do you think this will cause premature wear or failure of the engine or transmission? Should I just buy another vehicle rated for towing? So, Penn, I think officially there is no recommendation for towing on the Passat. So the BPY, the predecessor to the CCTA that I just answered a bunch of questions on about oil consumption and coolant leaks, had its fair share of problems too. And the transmissions were pretty sensitive from what I remember. I feel like by '08, they got the transmission pretty good. '06, a lot of valve bodies were failing. There were software updates and all kinds of stuff going on. 900 pounds is not that much. Okay, think about what the difference in weight in the car. Granted, it's pulling it differently. Let's say you weigh 200 pounds, and let's say you have 4 other people in the car who all weigh 200 pounds. Boy, that back seat is a little bit tight. But what does that add? That adds 800 pounds extra to the car. So now throw some luggage in the trunk and you're at 900 pounds. Granted, again, it's pulling it differently, but essentially the vehicle is propelling the same amount of weight as it does fully loaded when you load that motorcycle and trailer down on the back of it. I have seen plenty of people tow 2 jet skis with diesel Jettas. I have seen plenty of people tow way more than the car was rated for. So my gut says, Penn, that you're probably going to be okay. And what I would make sure that I did is I might lower the oil change interval. I might make sure that your transmission fluid has been serviced properly. I would definitely do a brake fluid service. Make sure that you got good, clean brake fluid, because in addition to stressing engine and transmission to propel car with trailer, you are stressing brakes and tires when you slow car with trailer. So keep that all in mind. And this is another one where I like to reach out to the audience and say, hey guys, who among you is towing a trailer with a B6 Passat? Our Tiguan is set up to tow a light amount, probably about this much, and the two platforms are almost identical. I have a trailer hitch for it that I never actually installed. In fact, I'll probably have to sell it because the Tiguan's going back on lease. This is where I really reach out to the community and say, hey, if you guys have experience towing with a B6 generation, so on the Passat, that's going to be 06, 07, 08, 9, 10, and I don't think they had a model year 11. All those are going to be B6. The BPY was 06 to 08 early. 08.5 up is the CCTA. Penn, I think you're gonna be okay. Just make sure you do all the extra stuff. Make sure your engine's maintained well, timing belt's been done, transmission is taken care of in service, brakes, tires, all that stuff has to be perfect if you're gonna load the car up. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Questions, comments, you know what to do. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. Always appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe right here on YouTube and ding the bell so you get updates when I post a video. Remember, exclusive content, discounts you can't get anywhere else, as well as access to the VW Audi training manuals for my classes. Check out Crew Members. There's a link down in the description. Also got a Patreon. Also, you can just use my Amazon link. I have a ton of recommended tools on every blog post. You can see those. Buy them, don't buy them. Cool thing about Amazon, $0 extra bucks is what it costs you. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat, all at Humble Mechanic. Guys, thanks so much for watching, or thanks for listening if you're listening, and I will see you next time.